Now that we've talked about training and testing your model, today we'll actually start doing this in practice. Today we will run our model on the test data set that we have been supplied with, and in the next tutorial we'll actually compare the performance of the model on the trained data and the test data. So let's go ahead and do all this work now. So geodemographic segmentation, and here are the two data sets that we started with, churn modeling and churn modeling test data. In order to run this model on the test data, I'm going to do the following thing. So I'm going to bring up Excel. I'm going to copy the test or the normal churn modeling data set in here. And then I'm going to copy the test data set into a separate Excel file. So now I've got two of them here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the rows from the test data set, except all of the columns except for the last column, which actually tells us the result, because we don't want the model to know the result for these people. And I'm just going to copy all of them. So I'll go to the bottom. There's 1,000 records here. I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to add them to this data set at the bottom. So I'm just going to copy them in here. So here you can see that they've been added at the bottom, but they don't have the result, right? So now when we put the model into, or the data into Gretl, and we build the model, we're going to be using these records because they do have the result, and Gretl can build the model based on the outcome, so it can find the right coefficients for the model. And then we will use these to actually evaluate our model. So we will ask Gretl to come up with probabilities for these records, and then we'll assess the model on these records separately. So I'm going to save this as a separate file so I don't overwrite my existing file. Churn modeling. Let's call it with test data appended. So there's our data set, and now we're going to run Gretl. File, open data, desktop, and there it is. And that's all good. So basically we're just doing the same thing as usual right now. What do we normally do? We add dummies for gender, and we add dummies for geography. So I'm going to change this. Okay, so I've created the dummy variables, I've renamed them, and I've added the log balance variable. Now what we need to do is we need to rerun the model. Here we've got our parameters, and I'm going to put them into our model. Alright, so I have inputted all of the regressors into the model. I've put in the dependent variable, show p-values, put the tick here. Looks good, so now we can run the model. And what you should see is you should see exactly the same coefficients as we had previously, same r-squared, everything, because even though we did add records, Gretl's not using them. Gretl's only building the models using observations 1 to 10,000, because the last 1,000 records don't actually have a value for the outcome, and therefore Gretl cannot simply just cannot use them in the modeling process. But what we can do now is we can go to analysis forecasts, and we want to forecast for this range. You see Gretl Smart is already picking up the range from 10,001 to 11,000 for those records. We don't want any pre-forecast observations, so we'll put a 0 here, and we don't want fitted values. It doesn't really matter because we're not going to have any of those anyway. So now we'll just click OK, and there you go. So these are our new records that we added from the test data. As you can see, they don't have an exited value, but they have a prediction. And this is the fun bit. This is the important bit, that Gretl, without even knowing, without knowing what is going to happen to these records, it built a model on the other records, as we discussed in the previous tutorial, and now it has applied the model to the new records. And as you can see, there are probabilities here. Now, what is the interesting bit is how right has Gretl gotten them, or how right has this model gotten them. how correct is our geodemographic segmentation, because we actually know the result. We just didn't include it in the file. It's in a separate file. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So we're going to save these records. This is not going to be exit hat. This is going to be p hat, as we discussed. P hat, and maybe we can call it test data. And here we're going to say for probability. Okay. So we've saved that. Don't need that. So there's our new data set, new column, and now we're going to export it. File. We're going to export data. So all we need is row number. We don't need customer ID. We only need row number and p hat test data. CSV, comma. Okay, I'm going to save it here. And at the end, I'm going to add, as last time, forecast. Save. Don't need that anymore. All right, so there is our data set. Let's open up Excel and have a look. There it is. So NA means that these records didn't have a prediction because we didn't ask for them to be predicted, and that's right. That's the first 10,000 records. And then, as you can see, the predictions begin here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove these records that don't have predictions. All right, so this is our test data predictions. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our previous test data file, so the original one. And now what we want to do is, let's get rid of this one. We want to copy the actual exited value from here into here. So normally what you would do is a VLOOKUP, right? But I'm not going to waste your time with that because I know that I can already see that they are lined up correctly. So I can just take this column, exit it, and copy it into here. And I can close this. And now what you'll see is that we don't just only have the probability, but we also have the exited value. So this value didn't participate in the modeling, but we have appended it now, and we can verify how well our model went. The last thing we want to do is copy it and just put it before this column. So should have done that. Anyway, so now we can see that row number, exit, and then p hat test data, because that's the order in which we need to copy them into our template. And that is we're going to use our cap curve template in the next tutorial to build the cap curve and then compare the results on the train and test data. So don't forget to save the file. And once you're done, I will see you in the next tutorial.
Now make sure to check out these videos on the right or the full course in the description to continue your learning, and I look forward to seeing you there.